Okay, I'm Kwoh Leong Keong. I'm the advisor for Center of Remote Imaging Sensing and Processing of the National University of Singapore. So thank you for joining us this afternoon for this important discussion on the role of cooperation in expanding the use of Copernicus data across institutions in the ASEAN region. Okay, this panel will explore how Earth observation programs like Copernicus can evolve from a national successes to regional implementation, and how shared governance and partnership can make the transition sustainable. Okay, we'll look at translating national achievements into ASEAN-wide framework for EO services, balancing institutional diversity with regional harmonization, and very important, the governance and financing model that enable long-term uptake. I think the long term is something that we certainly look forward to. Okay, we just I would like to thank Professor Rokis for opening with his keynote speech, and your comprehensive and insightful presentation should give us an excellent foundation for today's discussion. Engineer Alvin Pratama, or I call you Alvin.
Yes.
Yes. The successes of a COPFIELD initiative will be the reference point, right, for operationalizing COPFIELD services in the ASEAN region. So my question to you is, what questions from COPFIELD could help other ASEAN countries benefit from using Copernicus? And the second question is, how can we better connect scientific research and governance applications so that Earth observation data can translate into actionable policy?
The lessons that we've learned from implementing COPFIELD involves, well, first, determining the value that it will be bringing to us or to the agencies that will implement the various applications and the use cases, which of course relates to the value. That's one. Second, of course, we have to make an assessment of what our current capabilities are and what our capacities are at the moment. So it involves an honest assessment of where we are in terms of what we can do and what our resources are, so in terms of capacity. For the Philippines, for example, we selected, benthic habitat monitoring, land cover mapping, and there's also ground movement or ground motion detection. We were candid enough to not include flooding in the applications that we chose for Copernicus, for this project, because we assessed our capabilities, and we think our capability in terms of flood hazard mapping is already mature, and we probably have to redirect our resources elsewhere where we are currently lacking. So in those areas, as I mentioned. And then we have to look at what our resources are currently. So that includes computing and networking resources. Are they sufficient for carrying out these tasks, these projects? I think before getting into something, you should be able to map out the entire ecosystem and find out whether you are indeed capable of carrying out the services in this regard. And finally, when the agencies are already beginning to start and implement their projects, there should be a degree of handholding still. If they're new to these services, we shouldn't let them run on their own yet. As they say, they should learn to walk before they run. So we have to handhold them before letting them get a go at it. And once they are ready and confident enough, then I think then we can let them go and do their own thing. Now, for the second question, to better link R&D and government initiatives, I think there are certain ways to go about this. First, probably we can look at government funding researches in relation to Earth observation. So when they fund researches, these are usually targeted to benefit certain stakeholders already or certain agencies. So that's one. Second is we can directly hook up agencies with researchers. So they get into an agreement on performing certain or developing certain services that will benefit the agency. In the news, for example, we've seen partnerships between, say, the Philippine Space Agency and the DPWH for monitoring public works. There's also one with the DBM, together with the Department of Science and Technology, also for monitoring. So these types of engagements, of course, link up the research and the agencies. And finally, there are conferences and trainings, perhaps. Sometimes you'll be surprised when you make a presentation. After your presentation, people will come to you and inquire, oh, I think your research is going to be useful for us. So let's talk. So these are some of the ways I think that we can link up research with government.
Benjamin, ESA has played a key role in supporting ASEAN's growing EO community. So my question to you would be, how does ESA envisage a long-term support for ASEAN countries under the SCOPE initiative? And the second question I'd like to ask, what lessons from Europe's cooperation model could guide the regionalization in Southeast Asia?
I mean, for the first question, I think I would like to contribute on three aspects. One is cooperation. Second is the infrastructure needed to work on these things. And the third part is innovation. And all these three parts is at the heart of ESA's, let's say, raison d'etre and way of working. And if I start with the cooperation part, it's we're an intergovernmental organization, as I pointed out earlier, but we actually have also a long history on this. Looking back, for example, our current Director General, Joseph Aschbacher, he was in his very early days working in Thailand and having made a lot of experience in this context to understand how to work together with international partners. And I can say that has certainly given a very strong support in the discussions and the way of we approaching today the international cooperation. And I think that is something which needs to be in the, let's say, at the core of an organization like ESA to make this work. And I think it's also making sure that we are today sitting here. So that is one thing. It needs long investment and personal relations to make cooperations like this here today fruitful. The second thing is long-term investment in infrastructure, and in this case, I talk about Copernicus here. It's a long time actually that this has been developing, and I just want to make the point. Actually, I was looking for a number, how much budget has gone into Copernicus, and there is actually not one single number, but I mean, there are different ways how to calculate it, but it's behind there is 12 to 15 billion euros invested over the last, let's say, 10 years into this public infrastructure, making it a global public good. I think that needs long-term thinking, long-term investment in cooperation again between different countries, but also between global stakeholders. Having that kind of vision is allowing us now today. We saw there's a new launch. It's actually just a second one of Sentinel-6. But it just shows how important you need to have recurrent missions to make sure that there's consistency in it. And actually with the commitment from the European Commission, we're now able to say until 2040 we have recurrent and consistent and systematic operations of these satellites. That's unprecedented in this context. And I think this is very important to make available to everybody here in the region as well. And the third one is about innovation, to make sure that space is a very dynamic and developing sector, and you need to invest on the research side, at academic, but also on the private sector part, to make sure that this type of capabilities is in the hand of all the different sectors. It's not only in universities where we need people, we also need them in the private companies to make sustainable service being delivered to all the different economical sectors. That is something which we would like to support, and we do that in Europe, but we also do this through DG INPA and the EU delegations here in this region to make that coming to this region. And shortly to the second question, if we talk about region, ESA is, I think, the only continental space agency up to now which is really operational. Recently, the African Space Agency has been founded, but they're still, let's say, ramping up, and we're working together with them on that. But it's the raison d'être from ESA is to share the risk in the, let's say, still capital heavy investment into space between the 23 member states. And that is how things can be more resilient and actually can develop a bigger vision than just a single country. And I think that is also true here in the ASEAN region. And that is something which I think we can share as lessons and also perhaps as a guidance to see how we can work together.
Okay, Dr. Nok is the current chairman of ASEAN Subcommittee on Space Applications. And my question to him is, what is the current institutional policy landscape for ASEAN coordination to space activities? And the second question to you is, what do you wish to see how Scope Digital support ASEAN's regional priorities in the coming years?
Professor Kwoh, and you know, in 1989, ASEAN developed an action plan on science and technology, and the newest version of the action plan on science, technology, and innovation is 2026 and 2030. And one of strategy, exactly the second strategy of the plan of action is that enhance research capability and capacity in space technology. And in that, ASEAN to implement the second strategy, that ASEAN cooperate with the partnership, establish the formal and informal cooperative partnership between the government agency and the research institution, and also the private sector, to leverage the resource and expertise in space technology and research and development capacity in ASEAN region. Actually, the cooperation between the national agency of ASEAN member states have a long time ago. You know that this year the SCOSA meeting agenda, we have 8 ongoing projects and 2 initiatives from the partner, and all of that project and initiative is from the partner between the develop in the partner in the and the national agency. For example, I think Singapore, Thailand, and also Indonesia have cooperate with the Italian space agency and also Japan to study about the space situation awareness and space management. And also ASEAN interest in using the Earth observation data for monitor and management of the agriculture and natural resources and environment in the region. And also with the disaster field, you know that the JAXA have an initiative of Sentinel Asia. It has been working for a long time, and now all the Asian countries have got a very good data to mitigation of the disaster in the region. And also I know that India, they provide training course for, I think, annually for the Asian countries, so to develop the manpower in space technology. And now I'm very glad to hear that the EU have the cooperate with the ASEAN is very good, because actually the Copernicus program have a lot of benefit in the region, because you have a lot of satellite and long-term cooperation. And now I'm very glad to hear that you cooperate with the Philippines, and then is Indonesia and Thailand. But I think this initiative will be, I think, much broader in the own country, in the Asian region. So it's better for the, and also benefit for the EU, because the investment will be get the better result, because we have the same, I think the Asian country, the same problem like I think disaster, and also the climate change, to get the sustainable development in the region. So, and in conclusion, developed with the partner such as the EU, US, and also the developed country, will allow ASEAN to assess the legal issue in space activity, improve the satellite development capacity, and space technology and development the human resources. But actually, ASEAN still face challenges, include the gap in the technology and infrastructure and intellectual property, and also the legal barrier and the risk over the dependent on the foreign resources. And with the second question that for the integrate EU to policy, and I think the first thing, I think we can cooperate with the data sharing. And you know, the many of ASEAN member states, we have the satellite, we have the ground receiving station. And every day we receive a lot of data, and we just store it in the catalog. But the amount of data we bring to use for, I think, sustainable development of our Asian countries is a very small number compared with that we store in our catalog. So if we have the, I think, framework to exchange the data for each other, and it will better, and I think we can learn from the ESA. We can more generous to provide the data for other countries to, I think, to do the agriculture, environment, natural resources monitoring for the, I think, sustainable development. And the second one, I think the space now is changing. A lot of data is, a lot of satellites run every day, and the space now become more and more crowded. And we can gather together to get the, I think, space policy and share together, and share the idea and the priority in the policy in each country. And so we have the strong voice to face with some, I think, emerging issue like space deficit, like space situation awareness, and so on. So it's my answer. Thank you very much.
So next I move to Mr. Yosuke Muraki from JAXA. So Muraki-san, Japan has championed regional collaboration for 3 decades. You know, APASAF today is 31, so it's 31 years. And also you have a very successful Sentinel Asia and SAFE initiative. So my question to you is how can these experiences complement EU-ASEAN initiative like Scope Digital? And what steps could improve interoperationality and information sharing among ASEAN Pacific Earth observation systems?
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Dati po ako nakatira dito sa Pilipinas, kaya naman napakasaya ko po makabalik sa magandang bansa nito. So I just wanted to say something in Tagalog. So I'm Yusuke Muraki from JAXA, and I'd like to talk about our regional effort under APRSAF, how we evolved from the beginning. So we've already discussed some initiatives like Sentinel Asia, which is an ASEAN version of International Disaster Charter. And do you know when it started? It's 2006, so it's almost 20 years. So I think when we started, because we were the group of space agencies, so we tried to develop technical capacity and data sharing mechanism. But we noticed that it's important to involve users to the community. Otherwise, data is provided on the web platform, but nobody uses it. So that's how APRSAF developed Space Application Working Group, trying to involve user agencies like a Ministry of Disasters or infrastructure in each country. And it's very challenging because for them, space technology is one of the many choices for improving their disaster management. So slowly, I think we could involve such users to our community. So I think Scope Digital also can make the most of existing user communities which APRSAF developed. So I think what we can do is exchange information, how satellite data is currently used by users in each country, and what is the challenge. And also SAFE project, it's a space application for environment. It's also started in 2008, so it's very long ago. And we found that we had a shared problems and issues, like we all eat rice in our region. So we selected rice crop monitoring for statistics or understanding situation in the farmlands. And also, as Professor Rocky said, Indonesia is a supermarket of disasters. Japan is department store. And maybe Philippines is mega mall of the disasters. I don't intend to compete, but so we all suffer from disasters. So it's very important to share best practices. And even in Japan, as space agency JAXA, we are struggling to involve users. So this year we will conduct an emergency drill together with the Ministry of Disasters to know what is the bottleneck for the social implementation and how new satellite data providers like private sectors, how we can synergize data usage. So I think it's very encouraging that European colleagues come to Asia. And of course, Copernicus data is open, free, and it's very useful. And also important point is we can know how these different types of data can complement each other. So for example, 2 weeks ago, I was in Barcelona to attend the Smart City Expo, because we say involvement of users is important, but all we can do is to invite guests from non-space sectors like Smart City Community to space conference and tell their stories. But what we found is the people from space industry needs to go to the away situation. So we were so lonely. 2 years ago, NASA joined, but they left. And last year, we met ESA and EU. They have a program called Space for Cities, funded by Horizon Europe. So this year, we had an international panel. I organized it. And we share the best practices, how satellite data can promote the smart city efforts. So I think that kind of knowledge sharing and best practice is important, even in each country of ASEAN, because other people feel we should move on by looking at the best practices in each other countries. So I think knowledge sharing is very important, and also and I wanted to highlight that in that smart city context, we found that use cases introduced by European colleagues are different from the one those JAXA introduced, because we have radar satellite with a different frequency, L-band, which has benefits to penetrate the vegetation to see the land movement under the vegetation. So by combining the assets that JAXA have and the assets provided by Europe, or even ISRO or GISTDA or other agencies, we could come up with some hybrid integrated applications that is really needed by end users. So we have to start with a dialogue so that we can know what's going on in each efforts. And I think APR-SAF is one good forum to share information. And I think this is a kind of trigger or starting point to discuss. And also I'd like to say that ESA opened a liaison office in Tokyo just last month. So I think the distance between Europe and Asia is getting closer. So I think we can promote the applications in end user community much better from these dialogues. Thank you.
So yeah, thank you. We started with these four because they are talking about the technical aspect of the panel. And so next we have two very important speakers. They will be talking about financing and governance. So I will invite Yves Bartholomew first. For Yves, he's development finance is often crucial for sustaining momentum beyond pilots projects, right? So my question to you is, what financing models could ensure continuity and scalability of EO services? And how can EDB and similar institutions leverage EO in their regional investment decisions?
Even if I'm not really, by training a banker myself, I'm also kind of coming from the Earth observation world. But let's say, maybe I will say a few words very briefly what ADB is. It was created, I think, 60 years ago, 1966. It has 69 members, and 50 of the countries are in Asia Pacific of the members, and it's really going from Georgia, Turkey now, and up to Kiribati, so very different geographies, of course. ADB role is to support all these countries in development in many different sectors. So when I am talking about sectors, it means really any project which is improving lives of citizens in these countries. And so in agriculture, nature, agriculture, food, nature, water and urban development, transport, energy, and of course help these different countries to build their resilience to climate change and disasters. I think also I just would like to mention that recently, a few months ago, a new sector was created, which is the digital sector. Okay, so it's a brand new sector because it is also now a very high priority. It was a priority, of course, but it's even higher than before. Digital transformation in Asia Pacific. So it's very high in the agenda. So is ADB using Earth observation? Yes, ADB has been using in the past, is using currently, and we'll use more and more Earth observation, okay? So we use it, of course, for, let's say, I'm going to give a bit more technical also, because you said about, getting closer to users, but when we prepare projects, investments, in the end, what will happen? A country will borrow money to ADB. So ADB needs to make sure that the investments will be, in a way, impactful, okay, and that they will have a meaning, and that they will be located at the right locations, and that they will be, good investment. So it could be assessing forest degradation to prepare agroforestry projects, or locating, of course, we have talked a lot about disaster management, locating flood-prone areas to inform better infrastructure investments also. You don't want to build anything which would be in a flood-prone, or you would have to take that into consideration. More and more, you were talking about the smart cities, so we use also Earth observation, some of my colleagues in operations, in urban and water, to map heat and green spaces in cities, so that you make the right, also you design better livable cities. And I could go on and on with many different examples. So of course I said that we use it, but we could use it better. So how can we use, I saw, I think it was at the beginning maybe of the title here, it's how to mainstream. This was a Menti question. You know, at ADB we have a bit the same question, how to mainstream Earth observation within operations. Okay, and here there is not really a magic formula, I would say, but you need to start earlier than later, meaning that a project is a long story. And if you don't start from the beginning to work with Earth observation, specialists, data, then it's going to be difficult in the end to just add that, as a component of your project. So I think I wanted to mention a project that our colleague, Professor Komarudin, will know very well. This is a project in Indonesia, which has started in a way with the definition or the testing, the piloting of Earth observation services for flood management. And it seems it was quite successful. I was not involved myself at that time. But there was a very good dialogue with BRIN, with the planning agency, BAPENAS, Ministry of Public Works. And what is the result? Is that in the end, there is now in one component, which is part of what we call the operation, the project. So you can go, it's online, you can get access to the project documents, or what the government of Indonesia will borrow the money to do what, and there is a component with Earth observation. So this is a success, okay, what we can call a success story. Yes, so what is really important, I would say, and here it's not really, let's say, nothing really about finance per se, but it's really we have to be there, or you have to be there, of COPFIL or scope has to be there right from the beginning, so that the project that are designed can potentially benefit from these services. Yes, oh no, I don't, when we prepared, I think that panel, you had another question, but you didn't ask it to me, so I don't know, but the steps that I see, okay? And I think that one thing that is important also is that, in the end, and here I'm talking more from the ADB side of things, operations, projects are not that easy. It's a complex, it's a complex journey. And so a lot of my colleagues are very interested when they can, in a way, replicate or scale up or just adapt something that has worked very well in a country, because then they don't have to start everything from scratch. So I would say that, when I hear that there are some success stories here in the Philippines with COPFIL, I hear also, of course, a lot of success stories in Indonesia. what will happen? Colleagues will come and say, oh, what did you do in this country? Well, we did that. Okay. And then it's much more easy because you have a starting point. There is also, I mean, I could mention capacity building, of course. It's important because we will, in the end, operations will rely on capacitated public institutions and private also, which are involved, which is also very important because we can then build with countries, DMCs, developing member countries, maybe more and design a better project or design them at least with making sure that we make the best out of Earth observation. So, yeah, I think this is what I could say.
Finally, to our last panel speaker, Ms. Maria Theron-Puig. Maria, from the EU perspective, the global gateway, right, links digital connectivity and cooperation, as well as green transition. That's what I learned. So maybe you can tell us a bit about the EU gateway and how it connects with programs like Scope Digital. And the second question is, how can Copernicus further strengthen EU-ASEAN ties beyond environmental monitoring?
So I'm the program manager at the EU delegation of Philippines for digital cooperation, and I also manage COPFIL together with Casper and also the team here that we have the consortium of private sector. But on Global Gateway is about connectivity. It's about connections. And it's really in key areas that we see the cooperation with partners, right? So what do we need to connect? We need to connect people, right? So we have the education area as one of an important aspect of our cooperation. But then we also need to ensure that there's a movement of all the goods. So then we need trade. And for that, you need infrastructure. And we need to make sure that the infrastructure is resilient, that it's not isolated, and that we leave no one behind. So Global Gateway can also support these type of projects. It can be, you know, a bridge. It can be also sustainable shipping. It can be building on the energy connections that are needed for digital. And here, how do we choose the topic? I think here we have a very good example. The EU and ASEAN, and also bilaterally, and also with like-minded partners like Japan, we can work together to tackle global challenges at local level. And here the disaster risk management aspect, or the love for rice is also shared. This really means that we have a good topic that we can work, but it's beneficial for all parties, right? I mean, from our side, we can, for instance, in Copernicus, there is the data reciprocity. Philippines also has access now to our data. So this is also a key aspect. But I think once we have chosen the topic that is mutually beneficial, that it can bring a lot to both of the regions, then we can move forward on how do we implement this, right? And here we call it Team Europe. So basically it's the European Union, the European institutions such as the European Space Agency, the European Investment Bank, we call member states, so European countries, can get together, can work together on a proposal, and can really take it to the next level. Then in the EU toolbox, I'm not a banker, but we also have different types of support. For instance, Copernicus is a grant, but we also have different operations that become an investment, and it can also be a policy loan. So based on this toolbox, we decide how to better work together. For instance, the European Union can give a blending grant to the European Investment Bank or to a bank of the European countries as well. It can be KfD, it can be also with AfD, so the French, German, Italian, Cofides, Spanish, and you name it. So this is the approach on how we have this strategy in very big, like, infrastructure, connectivity sectors, and then we come together with the experience that the European Union has with the partners. And on COPFIL, and I'm sure you heard a lot today, and Scope, will not go into the details of it, but that was really the spirit. It was the Philippines that was very much interested. European Space Agency had also a very good cooperation, and you know, it was really important to build on that, on the connection of people, on the expertise and the ability to provide the data center, the infrastructure, and also bring in the European private sector, because ESA works also through the private sector here. And another aspect that I think it's essential, and I was very happy that in the hackathon of the last week, ideathon, sorry, of last weekend, it was mentioned, is the inclusivity aspect of space, right? So on top of, let's say, all the more infrastructure and capacity building, we also have an aspect of inclusion, gender, and participation of youth. It's so important that here in the Philippines and in all ASEAN and Asia Pacific, the young people, the young scientists know about Copernicus, because they will be the next space generation, but they can work at BRIN, they can work at GISTDA. I don't know if they can work in ESA, maybe Australia or Canada. So, it's very interesting to really make sure that there is a complete awareness that Copernicus is here, Copernicus exists, and it's to be used by the people, and is using technology for good. And another key aspect, I think, is that the offer that the European Union with the institutions and the partners, and that's why we are very much in partnership with ASEAN and also with the Philippines, that would have the ASEAN chairmanship in 2020, well, next year, but it was already launched, is really that we work together towards a common goal, but we work together because we share the same criteria for sustainability, inclusion, and standards. And I think also I'm very happy that in COPFIL there is, as Marco was saying, it does take a village, and everyone is very important to make it work, from the government, from our European institutions, from the private sector, from also the Digital for Development Hub that provides support and organization when we also need them to tap in on that expertise and to make things also raising the awareness. So I'm very happy that there's also gender equality, and we all work together as equals, as partners, and I think that translates in our cooperation with the Philippines and now with the ASEAN colleagues in the delegation, with Jerome and Ramon. This will continue with Thailand and Indonesia, and we hope more to come. So I just want to pass a message that the Global Gateway is, here to stay. It was launched by the President von der Leyen from the European Commission. Copernicus was part of her deliverables when she was here in the Philippines with President Marcos. So I think now today is a monumental milestone for EU and the cooperation through ESA with ASEAN countries. And I think we will hear much more. I also thank the Japanese colleagues also for the invitation, and I know the European Space Agency will attend and be here in the conference, but I think we really need to be aware of how instrumental, unique, and such a big historic event, I think, in our relations these launches, and thank you for the time.
Yeah, so that's all. We really have overrun the time. So let's now once again thank Professor Rokis. He was the keynote for this panel, and our panelists here for sharing their thoughts and their insight with us.